Hi, and welcome to Pellegrino Walk. My name is Kevin Sisti, and we have started a brand new phase of the One New Man, and it is called Tikkun Olam. So I think we need to give some definitions on this beautiful morning with the birds chirping and the coyotes going in the background that I can hear. It is an early morning, but got the coffee ready, and we are ready. Now, I want you folks to really stick with me. Some of this stuff along the way gets a little bit complicated, and it really does. But the longer you just stick around and you hear the terminology, you hear the names over a period of time, it actually starts to stick, even with me. What an amazing thing. So let's dig into this right now. So I just have my notes here, so we're just going to kind of scroll through these. But the multiple meanings of Tikkun Olam, the idea of repairing or repair of the world, exists in multiple Jewish contexts, and its meaning has changed over time. So we need to share the multiple meanings and then make it completely clear on how we'll be using this term in regards to the massive church deception we see in front of us, this huge apostasy. So first things first, the exact phrase Tikkun Olam does not appear in the Hebrew Bible, so where did it originate? So its first appearance, as far as my research is concerned, is in Rabbinic Judaism, AD 70 to 638 AD, and the phrase first appears in the Mishnah, which was part of the Talmud. It's the oral tradition of the Talmud. This is around AD 200 in the expression Mipnei Tikkun HaOlam, for the sake of repairing the world. Not just repairing the world, but for the sake of repairing the world. Here it refers to practical legal reforms that preserve the social order, not any kind of mystical restoration. I think this is important. There's a couple different definitions depending upon the time period. The second definition would be modern Judaism and how they use that. So today, many liberal Jewish movements use Tikkun Olam primarily to mean social justice, caring for the poor, improving society, and environmental stewardship. So once again, referring to acts of mercy and kindness in this case. But then there was a switch. So beginning in the 16th century, especially through Isaac Luria, Tikkun Olam became a distinctly Kabbalistic doctrine. Well, that's interesting. There was a shift from the idea of practical caring for the poor and improving society to something a little bit different. And it's at this point that I want your ears to open up to the mystical side of Tikkun Olam, which is where we're going to hang for months to come, because it's everywhere in front of us. So I think it's important for us to understand this shift, the idea that modern Jewish folk would think that Tikkun Olam is simply social justice or acts of mercy, that they may not consider it in the way that we are going to consider it, and even not from a Jewish perspective, because we know that this mysticism, this Jewish mysticism, has seeped into Christianity in many ways and in many forms over centuries. But today, it's exploding in an exponential fashion. So number 3, and the way that we are going to approach Tikkun Olam, is cosmic restoration. This is the major shift. Lurianic Kabbalah teaches God contracted himself. This is the Tzimtzum. So he contracted himself through a primordial process called Tzimtzum. This is withdrawal or constriction, in which infinite divine light, Ein Sof, stepped back from a central point to create an empty conceptual space where finite worlds could exist. It was at this point that divine light entered vessels. These vessels shattered. Divine sparks became trapped throughout creation, and humanity, especially Israel, helps now to restore creation by gathering those sparks. This cosmic restoration is called Tikkun Olam and is specific to Kabbalistic Judaism. Now, stick with me here, folks, because I know we're talking about Judaism, but we're going to show how this has slipped right into the church. So, in the context of Kabbalah, Tikkun Olam, Hebrew for repair or restoration of the world, as we've talked about, refers to the mystical process of restoring creation to its original divine harmony. And remember the word restoring. I always want to highlight that. Restoring creation to its original divine harmony after a primordial cosmic fracture known as the shattering of the vessels, a doctrine developed in the teachings of Isaac Luria. According to this framework, sparks of divine light became trapped throughout the material world, and humanity, especially through, and I have this highlighted here and bolded, notice that these are works done, right? These are works of righteousness in order to bring that divine harmony between above and below. Well, humanity participates in gathering these sparks and restoring the unity between God and creation, between above and below. Tikkun Olam is therefore not merely about social justice anymore, or improving society, but about a cosmic and spiritual restoration, there's the word again, that advances creation towards its ultimate redemption. The ultimate redemption of creation, with humanity playing an active role in the healing of the universe. This is key, once again bolded for a reason. Humanity must play an active role in healing the universe. Does this sound like dominion theology? Does this sound a little bit like manifest sonship? Yes, it does, because the elite are going to rise up. The elite manifested sons are going to bring about the healing of the universe. So once again, I want to repeat this because it's so important. In this mystical framework, Tikkun Olam is far more than social justice or nice things that we do for our neighbor. It is the restoration of the cosmos through human participation and agency. So as promised, folks, we are going to dig into Nancy Coen's teaching. We're going to do that today. We're going to do that multiple days as we move forward. But we're also going to dig into many other teachers in the NAR. So the Lou Engels and the Chris Berglunds and the Bill Johnsons and the Dean Briggs and the Cindy Jacobs and all the rest of them. You know, on a personal note, Barb and I have been gaslit for so long with this stuff, even digging through it. Is this right? And are we seeing something that's not there? And I could say today, folks, that I am so convinced of what I'm seeing and what is actually threaded through movements like the NAR, that we are going to expose exactly what they're saying. So Dean Briggs and Lou Engle and Bill Johnson and Rick Joyner, you guys have been speaking this stuff long enough. It's time to expose and show the parallels of what you're teaching to a lot of what's out there in esoteric circles that you have brought in. These are doctrines of demons that have been brought in. And we are going to expose this over and over again if we have to overturn every rock or every tiny little pebble or speck of dirt to be able to understand the doublespeak that is coming out of the mouths of these false teachers that are in front of us. Folks, it's the holy and the profane. It's time to hold it up, and it's time to expose these leaders. Let's look at Nancy Coen.
And that activation is going to bring inside of you a release of incredible mysteries that are inside of you. One of the things, they're already there. They're actually written down in your DNA. And we're going to show you tomorrow how all of that has to do with the time that we're in currently.
So your name is written in the scroll. Nancy Coen teaches of mysteries written in human DNA. She teaches that hidden mysteries, wow, that sounds familiar, hidden mysteries. We hear a lot about that in the NAR, but they're already encoded in humanity. This is restoration through awakening. And once again, that word restoration. So hidden spiritual mysteries are viewed in Kabbalah as fundamentally encoded within the fabric of creation and the human soul. And restoration, or tikkun, occurs through an inner awakening of consciousness. Well, where have we heard that before? Oh, yeah.
The tabernacle of David is in our hearts. It's in our hearts, and we will abide in Christ in that truth. In the truth of knowing the reality of who he created us to be. There's no separation. That's why we need a Christ awareness, a Christ consciousness, because we have a self-consciousness.
Chris is always so helpful to bring it into perspective. Yeah, we need a Christ consciousness. According to Nancy Coen as well, we need an inner awakening of this consciousness. Rather than acquiring any kind of foreign knowledge, an individual awakens to what's already imprinted within. It's a blueprint. Well, who else talks about a blueprint? Well, once again, Chris Berglund, who is in covenant with Lou Engle all over the world, just traipsing all over the place saying, I am a Christian man, and this is the theology behind it. These are the Kabbalistic roots. The blueprint within, it's already inside of you. Discovering the glory of Christ already planted in you, Chris Berglund. Well, Kabbalah teaches that the universe and the sacred texts are actually encoded maps. Take, for example, the Sefirot tree, which is right in front of you right now. We will move into this as we move further to actually see how the divine moves down through the tree and how humanity and the earth rises up to meet the divine. Sounds a lot like Bill Johnson's bringing heaven down to earth, doesn't it? Well, according to Kabbalah, there's a divine spark in every human being. We carry a dormant, pre-existent spark of this higher reality within the deepest layer of our consciousness. But there was a concealment, pulling back from the divine originally. It's the Tzimtzum in Hebrew. The physical world and the human ego function through a necessary contradiction of divine light, creating the illusion of separation. Well, if you remember, one of the first videos that we did on Joyland Church was from the pastor's wife, and it was that idea. It was actually Easter Sunday, and she was talking about the illusion of separation, that needs to go away. This is all Alice Bailey stuff in New Age. The idea of separation is actually the sin. We need to join in unity and come together and get rid of that illusion of separation. Well, you're seeing this in the church today, in this giant ecumenical unity that's dismantling this illusion of separation. But folks, this is in the church. So this whole idea of restoration, or tikkun, right, through awakening, that's essentially what Nancy Coen is saying. That's essentially what Chris Berglund is saying. It's already inside. We just need to awaken it. We need to awaken the one new man, right? Yes, exactly. Unity, awakening the one new man. Executive Editor Robert F. Wolfe. As we look down through this book, you'll see some interesting endorsements. I find this one interesting from the fallen leader of International House of Prayer, IHOP KC, Mike Bickle. I encourage you to absorb this wealth of wisdom from a stunning collection of authors who are preparing us to be the one new man, the bride of our coming king. My question would be, who's the king he's talking about? Let's look at the authors real quick. Robert F. Wolfe, Majestic Glory. Jack W. Hayford, King's University Chancellor. Raleigh B. Washington, Promise Keepers President. Mitch Glazer, Chosen People Ministries President, Ray Gannon, Director of Messianic Jewish Studies at the King's University, Daniel Juster of Tikkun International, Tikkun Global Director. Look at the word Tikkun. Who's next? Michael L. Brown. We all know Michael Brown. He is endorsing this as well. It goes on from there, folks, down to chapter 10. Jonathan Bernis, who will come up as we're going to be talking about his connections to the one new man as we move forward. Craig Keener, Asbury Theological Seminary, and, of course, Coach Bill McCartney from Promise Keepers. Wow, what a lineup of leaders and speakers that most of us know of. But this awakening of Nancy Coen and Chris Berglund is the piercing of the veil of this illusion of separation, to realize that the reality is entirely interconnected and governed by a single unifying force. Wonder who that force is. True spiritual awakening requires calibrating human intent and desire from selfish reception to sharing, universal love, and of course the big word in the Christian circles today, unity. Well, let's give Nancy Coen the floor again.
In Daniel chapter 12, the Lord says, I want you to take these mysteries, seal them up in a book, for these things will not be revealed until the end times. This is a word from the Lord, not my word, a word from the Lord. The books of Daniel are now being opened. And the things that are contained in them, which are mysteries that have never been released in the earth before, not even to the most early rabbis. So you're here and you're going to begin to hear some things I guarantee you've never heard before, because I've never heard them before.
We'll understand what Nancy Coen actually calls this teaching at Joyland Church. It's called Unveiling Ancient Paths. Well, this kind of lets the cat out of the bag again, because Nancy Coen is revealing ancient mysteries that have never been heard before. Well, where do we know about that? Well, actually, this is a prophecy from the Zohar. And really interesting, very interesting prophecy, because we're going to get into this a little bit. But the Zohar is the primary text of Jewish mysticism. It's pretty much attributed to Moses de Leon in southern France in the 12th century, where really a lot of this Kabbalistic thought started to incubate and started to grow. But the prophecy that's in there states that in the latter days, the period leading towards a messianic era, even children will be permitted to study the hidden secrets of the Torah, because the divine wisdom will be widely revealed. Well, here's the actual prophecy. In the 600th year of the 6th millennium, so 5600 equals 1840 AD, the gates of wisdom above will be opened. That's the heavens, the divine, together with the wellsprings of wisdom below, and the world will prepare to enter the 7th millennium. Well, what is the 7th millennium about? Well, the 6th millennium refers to the Jewish calendar, where the year 5600 corresponds to approximately 1839 to 1840 AD. The 7th millennium is understood by many Kabbalists as the Messianic age, analogous to the Sabbath following 6 days of creation. So a Messianic age starting at about 1840. Well, that's interesting. So getting back to Kabbalah, the Kabbalists who believed this prophecy was fulfilled point to two parallel developments. The gates of wisdom above refers to Kabbalah. They argue that the 19th century saw an unprecedented public dissemination of Jewish mysticism. Teachings that had previously been reserved for select scholars became increasingly accessible through the spread of Hasidism, publications of Kabbalistic works, and later movements that emphasized the study of the Zohar and the teachings of Isaac Luria. In the 20th century, teachers such as Abraham Isaac Cook interpreted the growing availability of mystical wisdom as part of God's preparation for redemption. Well, the gates of wisdom above, Kabbalah, all of it is going to flow down, essentially, as you think of the Sefirot tree, as it flows down from the top, down to humanity. Wow, there's a lot of parallels to what we're actually hearing there, to what we're seeing in the NAR. And of course, this points right back to what Nancy Coen is talking about with the book of Daniel being opened. Mysteries from ancient times that are now being revealed to the point where she doesn't even know what they are. Well, the second parallel thought from the Kabbalists was that the well springs of wisdom below referred to science, the Industrial Revolution, right? So many interpreters do see the Industrial Revolution and the explosion of scientific discovery beginning around the mid-19th century as fulfilling this part of the prophecy. They point to developments such as railroads and steam power, telegraph communication, electricity, modern medicine, Darwin's publications, physics and chemistry, later advances in aviation, computers, and artificial intelligence. Well, the argument, of course, is that both spiritual knowledge, Kabbalah from above, and natural knowledge, science from below, as above, so below, expanded simultaneously beginning around the time identified in the Zohar. That time was about 1840. So what else was happening at this time, say 1820 through 1850, in the Christian church? Well, we had the Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening, the Stone Campbell movement. Well, it's interesting because you know what the name of that movement was. The Restoration movement. Can you believe it? So we have cosmic restoration going on with Tikkun Olam and their prophecy that the gates of wisdom above would meet the wellspring of wisdom below, and you have the Christian Restoration movement happening right around 1840 that eventually absorbed some of these Kabbalistic ideas as it moved forward. Well, isn't that interesting? I find this so intriguing, and in the next episode, we're going to examine the Restoration movement, especially in terms of Tikkun Olam, or repair of the world, or restoration of all things. Sounds kind of the same. So we'll be tracing that movement from the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, where this divine Kabbalistic knowledge was supposed to descend. We have this prophecy from the Zohar. We have Nancy Coen saying that God is giving her a message, and this message is directly from the Lord for this church, Joyland, that God is opening the books of Daniel. Well, it's interesting that the Kabbalists agree with Nancy Coen. The reason why they agree with her is because she agrees with them. And she's teaching a form of syncretized Kabbalah, and she says she's in the Christian church. She's talking about the Holy Spirit. She's talking about God. She's talking about Christianity. Chris Berglund is doing the same. Lou Engle is doing the same. Very interesting, folks, as we see these parallels, and we are not going to stop pursuing them. So join with me on the next episode, and we'll be switching back and forth to teachers, and we'll be going so many places in the next few weeks, few months. But join with me as we look at the Restoration movement, and as we carry that from the early 1800s all the way to what we see in front of us today. God bless you, and thank you for watching today. See you next time.